Okay, when it comes to forgetting which rakat you're on. Actually, before I go into that, I'm going to properly discuss the other scenario that we had, making up rakats. So again, let me just finish that off and then we'll go into the next topic. Okay, now when it comes to making up rakats, there is a bit of a technicality here. And again, this will be an ijtihad issue, so other madhahib will differ on this. But in the Hanafi school, there's only one way to do this. Now, and this will can get a bit confusing, so you'll have to listen up. Okay, now, when it comes to recitation, so let's say I miss one rakat. When I stand up and make up that one rakat, I recite as though I'm starting from the beginning of my salah. That's simple so far? Yes, I read from Subhanaka Allahumma a'udhu bismillah, just as if my first rakat, yeah? Okay, that's rule number one. So when it comes to recitation, I work my way down. So if I miss 2 rakats, then I'm reciting as though my first 2 rakats of any salah. If I miss 3 rakats, I go in order like that, yeah? Okay, that's the first thing, number one. Number two, another rule when it comes to making up rakats is after every 2 rakats, it is wajib, meaning necessary, to sit down for tashahhud, at-tahiyatu. I'm going to repeat that rule again. Every 2 rakats, it is wajib, necessary, to sit down and to recite tashahhud at-tahiyatu. Every 2 rakats. Now, when does this come into play? So now let's take a scenario. Let's say Maghrib. Maghrib is an easy scenario. So I've missed the first 2 rakats with the Imam. So how many rakats did I read with the Imam? 1. So I just got the last rakat in with the Imam. Yeah? And so I prayed 1 rakat with the Imam. Imam done salam. Now I stand up now to make up the missed rakats. How many rakats do I need to make up? 2. Good. Now Imam's on salam, I've just stood up now. Now in my first rakat, what do I read? Subhanaka Allahumma a'udhu bismillah, Fatiha, another surah. Then I go into ruku, then I do my 2 sajdas. After I do my 2 sajdas, what do I do next? Tashahhud. Yeah, I sit down for tahiyyat. Because remember the rule, every 2 rakats, I must sit down for tashahhud. I did 1 rakat with the Imam, now 1 rakat with myself. Now I sit down, this wajib rule kicks in, where I sit down and read at-tahiyatu. That make sense, everyone? Yeah. And then I stand up, and now I stand up again, yeah? So now what do I read in this rakat? Surah Fatiha and another surah. So in terms of recitation, I'm on my second rakat, isn't it? Yeah? In terms of my recitation. But in terms of recitation, yeah. Because remember, in my first rakat that I made up, I read Subhanaka Allahumma. So in terms of my recitation, I've done rakat number 1. Now in terms of my recitation, I'm on rakat number 2. Does that make sense? And in terms of recitation, I've done the third one with the Imam, isn't it? Yeah. Does that make sense, everyone? So similar scenario, let's say in Salatul Isha, I only got to 1 rakat with the Imam. Yeah? So I performed my 4th rakat with the Imam. Yeah? Imam does salam, I stand up now. What do I need to read? Subhanaka Allahumma a'udhu bismillah, Fatiha, another surah. And then I do my ruku, 2 sajdas. After my 2 sajdas, at-tahiyatu, good. Yeah? Because I've done 1 rakat with the Imam. Technically, I've done my 4th rakat with the Imam, yeah? And I've done my first rakat by myself. But the rule kicks in. After every 2 rakats, sit down for tahiyatu. So then I read tahiyatu, then I stand up again. What do I start reading? Surah Fatiha, another surah. So I've done the recitation of my second rakat now. I do ruku, 2 sajdas, and then what do I do? Stand up again. And then what do I read now? Just Surah Fatiha, isn't it? So now I'm doing the recitation of my 3rd rakat, aren't I? Which I only read Surah Fatiha. And then I go down into ruku. Does that make sense, everyone? In terms of making up missed rakats. Any questions on making up missed rakats? Yeah.
What if you need to make up 3 rakats of Maghrib?
If I need to make up 3 rakats of Maghrib, then just pray normal 3 rakats of Maghrib. Yeah, there's no difference there.
No, if we join the Imam when Imam is sitting in a tashahhud and read us around, so you need to read exactly 3 rakats of Maghrib.
Yeah, so exactly the same how you'd pray by yourself. So there's no difference here.
But you have the tashahhud after the first mid-rakah, right?
Yeah, but because you haven't got any rakats with Imam, have you?
No.
Yeah, so you stand up and do 2 rakats, and then tashahud, then stand up for your 3rd rakat. So you just pray normal Maghrib Salah basically.
I think the question is probably at what point do you
If you join Imam before
meet the Imam that you met the Salah? I guess that's probably the right question.
Okay, and just if in case that's the question, if you get the Imam in ruku, that's when you've got that rakat. If you get the Imam in ruku, that's when you got that rakat. If you join in with the Imam after ruku, you've missed that rakat. So you need to make up for it afterwards.
Sorry, in that point, because the situation you are convinced, do I meet the ruku? Maybe you are a bit confused, do I meet it or not? So what do you do in that situation? Maybe you are in between, the Imam is about rising up, and you are just coming and you are like, do I meet the...
Okay.
So you don't know what to do at that point. Maybe you should just think like it's valid or...
Okay, yeah, that's like a gambler's question. You're gambling. Yeah, you gambled the... Okay. Okay, so when you're... Okay, in that scenario, so it's important to know the definition. The definition of ruku is to bow enough that my hands can touch my knees. So this, look, when I'm like this, in this position... Yes. Okay, so the definition of ruku is when I can touch my knees. So like this. So if I bow down this much, I'm actually in ruku now. Yeah? So although I haven't gone down fully, like this, but just by bowing this much, I'm in ruku. Yeah? So now, I have to think to myself, did I, even when, let's say, Imam's going up, yeah, and I'm going down, technically I've met him in ruku, haven't I? And it has to be for, at least for the duration of subhanallah. So you have to be able to meet each other in a sort of bowing position for the duration of subhanallah. So that's something you have to basically estimate yourself, which Allah won't speak to us in salah directly, unfortunately. So you need to just estimate, do I think I met the Imam in ruku for the duration of a subhanallah? If the answer is yes, I think the answer is yes, then that's when I've got the Imam. I don't need to repeat. But if I think the answer is no, then I have to repeat that rakat. Then in those scenarios, if you're right, you just have to go with your dominant thought, what your dominant thought is. And if you're completely unsure, where you've got no clue, then most likely you haven't got the Imam, just make up for another rakat. Yeah. For the duration of subhanallah.
Duration,
Yeah.
not the tasbih.
Yeah, for like basically 1.5, 2 seconds. No, the ruku is over. The Imam's ruku is over when he stood up, let's say this much. That's when the Imam's ruku is over. Because the ruku is when you can touch your knees. Okay. So Imam will probably start saying, Sami Allahu. He's still in ruku. Now, here, that's when he's out of ruku now. So while he's been in that stage, did you meet him for the duration of salah? So this will be a scenario where you've just joined in and the Imam just standing up. Then I'd say you probably got that ruku. You probably got it.
Okay, so the point is, at the point the Imam is like, okay, I'm joining now, and I was unable to recite I was unable to recite mine. It doesn't have to do it.
No, you don't have to recite.
When the Imam is raising.
Yeah, you don't have to recite, no. So to recite, reciting the tasbihat of the position, these are sunnah of salah. These are sunnah of salah. So if I missed it, it's not too much of an issue. So to say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, these are sunnah of salah. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. If I don't know that yet, I've not been reading it, it's not too much of an issue, it's a sunnah of salah.
Just one more thing, when sometimes people join the Jamaat, the Imam is going to the room, they just rush to the saf and they say Allahu Akbar and straight to the ruku without holding it.
Okay, good question. Okay, when it comes to joining in, let's say Imam's already going into ruku and I need to rush in and join in the salah. Okay, the best way to join, observing all the sunan, is like this. So Imam's already in ruku. I say Allahu Akbar, fold my hands. So this is the fard takbir. Then I say the sunnah takbir, Allahu Akbar, and then go into ruku like this. This is the best way to go into join the Imam. But if someone does it like this, so let's say Allahu Akbar. Oh, sorry, it's just a habit. So Allahu Akbar, and they join in straight like that, the salah is valid. Because, okay, so now let's understand this properly. To fold the hands is a sunnah of salah. To fold the hands is a sunnah of salah. So if someone didn't do it, It's fine, it's not the end of the world, but it's just they've broken a sunnah. Yeah? Now to do an additional takbir, when we go from position to position, to say that Allahu Akbar, or Sami Allahu liman hamida, or Rabbana, these are all sunnah of salah as well. So all the takbirs of moving position, they're sunnahs of salah. So this person, when they just said Allahu Akbar and joined in, they've missed the sunnah of folding hands, and they've missed the sunnah of going into saying Allahu Akbar. But the salah is still valid, which is not too much of an issue. One very important note though on this, in which I've seen people make mistakes. Remember the definition of ruku. The definition of ruku is to bow down enough so your hands can touch your knees. Now, this Allahu Akbar, it must be said in a standing position, not in a ruku position. This is a condition. The Allahu Akbar must be said in a standing position. So let's say if I'm late for salah and I'm rushing in, Allahu Akbar. Half of it was then standing and half of it was said in ruku, my salah does not count. So if I'm joining into the salah and I'm going to miss out the sunnah, which is fine, Allahu Akbar. I say, Allahu Akbar. So the full thing has to be said while standing. Full thing has to be said while standing. Only then we start to go into ruku, or your salah will be invalid. Okay, so we've covered okay, now we need to come into the doubts of salah, don't we?
You made mention that while we are in position of qiyam, we should be looking at the point of prostration. So in the position of ruku,
Between the two toes, between our big toes. Okay, when it comes to doubts of salah, this is a very important topic, and it can get confusing as well. Okay, and there's a few things that we need to know in terms of the fiqh of some of the positions. Okay, let's start. So with this, to understand this, you will need to concentrate. Okay. What time should we stop? 3:30. 3:30, okay. Because then we will need to have another session to correct our pronunciation. So we'll do a session 2 of this. Should we do it next week? Yeah, while it's fresh. Okay. But I still need to check everyone's positions. We're not going on until I've checked everyone's positions. Yeah. So next week we'll focus on pronunciation a bit more. Yeah? Okay. Okay, doubts in salah. I'm not sure which rakat I'm on. Okay. The first thing that scholars say about having doubts in salah, generally the scholars say if it's your first time you're having doubts and you're completely forgotten, you don't know, it's the first time ever in your life. So it probably won't apply to us anyway. But I'm just saying it because the scholars have said it, I'm just repeating what they've said. When it's the first time you've ever had doubts in your salah, it's better to just break your salah and start again. This is for the first time. Okay? So I'm just getting it out of the way. Now let's say you've had many occasions, you've had doubts. Now what do you do now? Okay. The first point is go with your dominant thought. Go with your dominant thought. Let's say I'm praying my dhuhr salah, 4 rakats. I'm not sure whether I'm on my 3rd or 4th. I'm not sure. But I think to myself, you know what? Most likely I'm on my 3rd. If I can say most likely I'm on this, then you have a dominant thought and you go by that. Even if you happen to be wrong, it's not an issue. Because you're doing what you're capable of in terms of your best. So the first point, if I was to write it on the board, I don't have a board here. I write number 1, go with your dominant thought. Dominant thought is like, let's say 70% sure. I'm 70% sure this is what rakat I'm on. Yeah? Many of the fiqh rulings, they go according to dominant thought. Many fiqh rulings, they are according to dominant thought. Number 1. Okay, any questions about what I've said so far? Okay, good. This is scenario number 1. Any salah, I don't know, let's say I start my salah, I don't know whether on my 1st or 2nd. Or another scenario, 2nd or 3rd. Or another scenario, 3rd or 4th. My first point of reference, do I have a dominant thought? 70% sure. If I'm 70% sure on something, I go with that. Make sense? Okay. Now there'll be many scenarios, I just have no clue. I've got no clue. But this no clue will be between either, let's say, 2nd or 3rd, 3rd or 4th, between 2 rakats. I've got no clue which rakat I'm on, whether it's 3rd or 4th, or whichever. When you've got no clue, you go with the lowest possible scenario. Step number 1. When you got no clue, you go with the lowest possible scenario. So let's say in this scenario, I'm not sure whether I'm in my third or fourth. So which rakat do I go with? Third. So I tell myself I'm in my third position, my third rakat. Okay. Now for us, especially the simultaneous students, you'd know, which position do I need to make sure that I don't miss? The last tashahhud. In the Hanafi school, I'm not sure about the other madahib on this. This is specifically according to the Hanafi school. This last tashahhud, so let's say after 4 rakats, to sit down for a tashahhud is a fard of salah. Now I'm going to repeat that again. To sit down for a tahiyatu after 4 rakats is a fard of salah. Which means what happens if you miss out a fard? Salah is broken. The second one is a wajib, which means in the Hanafi school, if you miss it, you can just do sajda sahwa. So we differentiate between the two. So to sit down for at-tahiyatu after second rakat is a wajib, which means if you missed it, you can do sajda to sahwa. To sit down after 4 rakats is a fard, which means if you missed it, then the salah is broken. Okay? So these two as the background knowledge, you need to know these two things. Yeah? Everyone got the background knowledge? Okay. Okay, so now in my scenario, I don't know whether I'm in my third or fourth. So, and I've got no clue, so I go with the lowest, isn't it? Okay, so now I'm standing in my salah, my Fatiha. I've just had this complete confusion, so I just assume, no, I'm just going to go with third. Yeah? But equally, it's possible that I'm in which rakat? Sixth? Did I hear 6? Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's possible that I'm my fourth. Yeah. So now let's say I'm assuming I'm on my third. Yeah. With this possibility that I'm on my fourth. But I'm going with third. Yeah, because that's my lowest possible. So I read Fatiha in a fard. I don't read anything else. So I say Allahu Akbar, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And I say Sami Allahu liman hamida. Yeah. And then let's do sajda towards the qibla. Say Allahu Akbar 3 times. Then Allahu Akbar. So I'm just missing out the tasbihat. Allahu Akbar. Now I've done my 2 sajdas. Which position do I go into next? I go into tashahhud. Because it's possible I was in which rakat? Fourth. And if, worst case scenario, I was in my 4th rakat, this tashahhud becomes a fard on me, isn't it? So I'm going to do this tashahhud just in case. Does that make sense? Just in case. It's possible that I just added an extra tashahhud for no reason in my salah, but for that I'll do a sajda sahwa at the end. Yeah? But my salah won't break. Yeah? So I'm going to sit in this tashahhud just in case I was on my 4th. Worst case scenario, I've added an extra tashahhud and I'll just do sajda sahwa for that because it's a mistake. Yeah? But if I happen to miss this tashahhud and I was actually on my 4th, my salah will break, isn't it? So what I would do, I'd sit down for tashahhud and then I'd go back into my 4th. Yeah? And then I read Alhamdulillah again, ruku, Sami Allahu liman hamida, 2 sajdas, and then I'll sit down again. And then, because I made a mistake, because I could have added an extra tashahhud, and in the Hanafi school, this is how we do sajda to sahw. Yeah? So in the Hanafi school, the way you do sajda to sahw is first you read at-tahiyatu fully. At-tahiyatu lillahi wa salawat wa tayyibat, all the way till the end. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Yeah? So once you've done that, 1 salam to the right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Then you do 2 sajdas, Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbil A'la 3 times, Allahu Akbar, Subhana Rabbil A'la 3 times, Allahu Akbar. Now I've done my sajda to sahwa. And then what I do is I start from the beginning now. At-tahiyatu lillah wa salawatu, Allahumma salli ala, Allahumma barik ala, Allahumma inni zalamtu. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay, so now, was everyone following that? So you need to know the background knowledge. 1 second, I'll take your hand in a minute. So you need to know the background knowledge. The first at-tahiyatu after 2 rakats is a what?
It's wajib.
Wajib. The first at-tahiyatu after 2 rakats is a wajib. Which means if I missed it, I can do sajda sahwa. The last at-tahiyatu after 4 rakats, yeah, is a fard, which means if I miss it, yeah, my salah is broken. Okay, So now,
So Imam the how can somebody do fourth rakat? If he's in fourth rakat, he's going to sit.
yeah, so the problem isn't, so now okay, good question. Okay, so now in this scenario, yeah, where I wasn't sure whether I'm in my third rakat or fourth rakat, yeah, I had no clue. So which one did I go with? Third. But it is possible that I was actually my fourth, isn't it? So now, if I was actually my fourth and I didn't sit down and I just stood straight back up, I've gone into my fifth rakat, haven't I? Without sitting for tahiyatu. Yeah? So I would have broken my fard. Because it's fard to sit down after 4 rakats. Okay, yes.
Yeah. So you said you say salam just one.
Yeah.
If you're behind the imam, you also need to follow because sometimes the imam is so fast and before you.
Yes, so you still need to follow behind the imam. So imam says Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah once, you need to also do it. But when you're behind the imam, if you miss a wajib and it's not your fault, then these are all excused. So let's say to say salam once to the right is a wajib, but as a follower, the imam was just too quick. That's not your fault. So these are all excused. It won't break your salah, it won't lessen the rewards of your salah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
question. What if you're not sure if you went for sujood twice, like put your hand up twice?
Okay, very good question. Fixed students, Sanatine students, how do you answer that? Someone said, the question is they're not sure whether they've done 2 sajdas or not. So maybe they just done it once. What do they do? What's the ruling?
Do it extra.
Go with the dominant thought.
Someone else?
I think we asked if is it fard or wajib?
Sanatine students? Because you should know this. And what's the reasoning for your answer?
Because doing 2 sajda per rakat is a wajib, but doing it in and so you have to do 2 sajda per rakat, and because you didn't do it in order, you can also do the sajda salam for that.
Okay, almost. Okay, you made one mistake. Okay, so to do 2 sajdas in every per rakat is a fard of salah. Fard, yeah? Fard, yeah? So if I'm praying a 4 rakat salah, how many sajdas are owed from me is 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah? 8. As a bare minimum. If I finish a salah and I've done 7 sajdas, my salah is broken. Yeah? Salah is broken. Now, in a scenario when I'm not sure, did I do 1 sajda or 2? It's best to just do another extra sajda and then do sajda sahwa at the end. Because if I end up doing 5 extra sajdas, that's not too much of an issue. Because I can just do sajda sahwa at the end. But if I'm short on 1 sajda, then it's an issue. My salah is not accepted. So whenever I doubt whether I'm 1 or 2 sajdas, I always do an extra one. Even if, let's say, you're in your 4th rakat now and you're thinking, you know what, I think in my 1st rakat, I done only 1 sajda. And that's playing on your mind. Worst case scenario, in your 4th rakat, just do 3 sajdas. So now, because now you're not short. Yes, you've broken a wajib of doing the sajdas in order. So you've broken a wajib, but your fard is done. Your fard is to make sure you've got 8 sajdas at the end of your salah, by the end of your salah. So you can do, that's no problem. Any other questions?
So last question.
Yeah. No. Questions are good.
What if you're either praying by yourself or behind an imam, in between you pass away? You start afresh, or let's say you prayed 2, then you pass away in the 3rd. Take that as your.
Okay. I know the Hanafi madhab on this. I'm not sure about the other madhahib. The Hanafi madhab, we have something called bina. This is if you praying your salah and you pass wind, have a nosebleed or something, then according to the Hanafi school, you can go and do wudu. And they say, so I'm going to mention all the conditions that they mention, to the closest water source, if prepared for wudu. So you shouldn't be going to a different house or something. So you go to the closest available water, do wudu, and you can actually come back and continue from where you left off. I'm not sure about the other madhahib though, but this is something which is in the Hanafi school. So that's fine.
Continue if you have not finished before rakats. So if they are praying Zuhr, for example,
Yeah.
you can continue during the Fajr. But if they have completed the 4 rakat before you come back, what happens?
Okay, so let's say if it's a jama'ah, if it's a jama'ah scenario, so let's say rakat 1, your wudu broke. Yeah? So then you went to do wudu. And by the time you came back, they're on rakat 2 now. So you missed 1 rakat with the imam. So what you would do after the imam does salam, just make up that 1 rakat. But if you happen to join in without missing anything, then you don't have to make up anything. Or let's say you are, let's say on the 3rd rakat, you passed wind, and you quickly done wudu, and you came back and joined the imam before you went into ruku. Then you don't have to make up anything. Just continue from where you left off.
If you're doing alone?
Same rule applies if you're doing it alone. So you can continue from where you left off.
He spoke in the wudu, like with that.
Okay, good. They say, the scholars say, if you've done anything from going to, in terms of when you left to do wudu and coming back, that's contrary to salah, then your salah would break. For example, talking or eating. So if you spoke to people or you ate something, there's some nice snacks on the kitchenette area, and you put one in your mouth, then you can't do that. So you'll have to restart.
So when we return after the wudu, do we need to say the takbir again or just?
No, you can just join in. Yeah.
What if you want to pass in, but you're trying to, you can hold it? It's like, I hear people say if you are trying to hold this thing, it validates your.
When you're passing wind.
If you want to pass wind,
Yeah.
or you try not to, but
Yeah.
in salat.
Okay.
Is that what you said?
Okay, yes, that's fine. The only time your salah would break is when the Prophet ﷺ said, someone asked the Prophet ﷺ a similar question, and he said, your wudu only breaks. So he said these 2 words: if you can either hear something or smell something. So he was basically, it's not literally you can pass wind as much as you want as long as you can't smell. So his point was to get rid of waswasas. Basically, in other words, to rephrase that is, if you only consider your salah broken if you are absolutely certain that you passed wind. That's when you consider your salah broken. That's to rephrase that hadith, according to our best understanding. So if you are absolutely certain you passed wind, that's when you basically say your salah is broken. But if you're just having doubts, maybe I passed wind, maybe I didn't, then your salah is not broken. You consider it just to be intact.
That outside of salah, but like if you're not sure if you, obviously it's a bit of a different question, but if you're not sure if you still have your wudu or not.
Oh yes, same concept outside of salah. Yes. Okay, good. Any other questions? Yeah.
On concentration, when you're reading Salah, you do concentration. How, I mean, I've read it quite a few times. How can you get back? What is, how is there something you read before you start Salah but not use concentration?
Okay.
I have done it many times.
Okay, so asking for a life hack over here. Okay, so concentration in salah it's a topic in itself. Okay, but in terms of, let's say, from a baseline perspective, yeah. Now, what is an accepted salah? What is a salah that's not accepted? Let's say your concentration is so bad, your salah is rejected. What have the scholars said about that? As a baseline, the scholars have said is, let's say every time you realize that your mind has drifted off and you bring your concentration back in. If that is your habit, then this is an accepted salah. Even if you had to do it 1,000,000 times. So as long as you don't intentionally entertain your thoughts. Let's say you start your salah with full concentration. Now before you knew it, just daydreaming. As soon as you realize you're daydreaming, you bring your thought back in. Then you start concentrating again. Start daydreaming. As soon as you realize, you bring your thought back in. If that's the condition of your salah, then scholars say this is an accepted salah because you've done what's in your responsibility. So that's the baseline in terms of praying a salah that's accepted. Now, in terms of going further, now how do we bring the spirituality into our salah? Then that's a lot deeper question. And just to answer very, very briefly, is that concentration starts not from the salah time, it starts from outside of salah. So now our condition of our heart is known when we start salah. So however our condition is with Allah, our connection and relationship with Allah outside of salah, we feel the effects of it inside salah. If generally I'm someone that's very, very close to Allah, I understand who Allah is, the love of Allah, the fear of Allah, and so in my heart, in my salah, this will be reflected. When I start my salah, I'll be full of love, I'll be full of awe. My mind won't wander. But if my heart's slightly distant outside of salah, then this will show in my salah. So now how do we basically correct ourselves, our hearts inside salah? Is number one, we have to work on our hearts outside of salah. I have to be someone that fears Allah, loves Allah, knows Allah. Because they give this example. Imagine, let's say you walked into your house and there's a stranger in your house with a knife and a gun. Your heart will be fully focused on this person, isn't it? Will you have any external thoughts like, oh, what am I going to do shopping? Or after he's gone, what should I cook? Nothing. Because you know the value of this person, not the value, but the threat that this person has. You know his qualities, he's dangerous, etc., etc. You know fully who that person is. It captures your whole heart. And there's no diverting from him. Likewise, if we truly knew Allah and that we're standing in front of him, then our hearts would not go elsewhere. It's because our hearts are distant from Allah, the greatness of Allah has not really entered my heart. So hence, when I'm standing directly in front of him, because I haven't recognized him, my heart's going over there, over there, over there, over there. But if my heart was fully recognized who Allah was and His greatness had entered my heart, then this would be exactly the same scenario. That's why many of the awliya, the mashayikh of the past, they would, once they start the salah, they'd be completely clueless, because they know who they're standing in front of. One sheikh, what he used to do, he used to play the radio before he used to start salah. Yeah, that's what he used to do. Go, turn the radio on, Allahu Akbar. One of his students asked him, why are you playing the radio before you start salah? And he said to his students that the day that I can hear what the radio is saying, that's when I'll break the radio. Basically, that was a measure of his khushu' in salah. As soon as he said Allahu Akbar, he has no clue what the radio is saying. Because this was the intimate connection with Allah. So it starts from outside of salah. And then it comes inside of salah. But generally, the scholars say, when you're praying your salah, that's why you have the 4 sunan. The 4 sunan is, it starts with wudu actually. To do the wudu properly with full concentration. Then to do the sunan with full concentration. And then preparing, this is all preparation of our hearts for fard. Although technically, why do I need to do wudu for? I'm already clean. Yeah? Why do I need to pray for? So all of these things that the Prophet put in place was to prepare our hearts. This is the time where you detach yourself from the dunya. So if my wudu is rushed, I'm thinking about all sorts in wudu, my salah is going to be the same. Likewise, the 4 sunnahs before the fard is again preparation of our hearts. And then, before I start my salah, I make my intention very clear. I'm standing in front of the King of all kings. These 5 minutes are dedicated to my Creator. So now, generally as human beings, especially men, we don't like to multitask. We just want to do one task at a time, yeah? So now I tell myself, look, I'm not going to multitask over here. So these 5 minutes is purely dedicated to my Creator. So you go in and you imagine that I'm standing in front of the courts of the King of all kings. He is about to look at my heart. So you train your mind, and then when you say Allahu Akbar, then you, as if you've entered the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then of course, your mind will still wander, but you generally convince yourself that this 5 minutes is dedicated purely to Allah, to no one else. And when you enter in this frame of mind, it's a bit easier to help concentrate. Any other questions?
So second question from me.
Yeah.
Is there an exception when you are praying and you pass through wind? What I have in mind is, say for example, you are in Haram, Makkah or Medina, and you know that getting inside itself, you need to get early, and you are there and you pass wind. Coming outside is impossible. So what do you do in that situation?
It's like a get out of jail free card. Just play it, that's it.
Is it permissible to complete that prayer, knowing fully well that you've broken it, and then go out, do your ablution again, and come back and pray?
Okay. No. Yeah. So, yeah, so to have purity, to have spiritual purity is a condition of the salah. So regardless of the scenario, if I don't have wudu, then the salah is invalid because one of the fundamental conditions is not met. So in those scenarios, so especially like, I remember once I actually went to pray. I was right in front of the Kaaba, and I realized I didn't even do wudu. So, oh no. Yeah. But I had a bottle of water with me. So literally there and then, I had a couple of minutes before the salah started. I literally sitting in my place, I did full wudu. So for wudu to count, just 2 drops need to fall off that limb, which is not hard. So let's say to wash my face, I just put a tiny bit of water in my palm, and I just put it on my forehead. As long as 2 water dropped, and I just rubbed everywhere, my face is washed. And the fara'i in the Hanafi school, the fara'id are 4. So I wash my face, and then again, I just got a little bit of water, put it on my arm, moved it around everywhere. As long as 2 water drops, my wudu is it's done, the limb is done. Rub it around, same with my left hand. Wiping is even easier. The feet is slightly more difficult, but again, put some water in your hand, and just, as long as 2 water drops, and just rub it everywhere. I've done full wudu, there's no problem.
Tayammum is optional.
No. Tayammum is only optional when there's no water available for 1 mile.
I mean, that salah become invalid if there is no option. You come back and do.
Yes. So if you can't do wudu there, then it's haram to pray salah without wudu. It's haram. So here you cannot pray. You need to go out and do wudu. And even if it means missing with jama'ah, because praying with wudu is a fard, and to pray with jama'ah is a sunnah. So we can't abandon a fard to fulfill a sunnah.
Even if that, in the scenario that this guy said, is if it was a medical condition, like some people might have a bowel problem or lactose intolerant, that sort of thing, and they constantly.
Yeah, so when it's a medical condition, there's a separate rule for that, which is ma'adhur, which I'm not going to go into today. Perhaps our next session. Ma'adhur is when you're an excused person. And that's when your wudu doesn't break due to that same reason. So let's say I have a chronic illness of passing wind all the time, yeah, due to whatever reason. So now I've become a person that's ma'adhur. So now when I pass wind, my wudu will not break. I just need to make sure I renew the wudu when a new salah time starts. But how you become a ma'adhur, we'll go into that another time. Yeah. Any other questions about what we've done today?
Let's say I'm praying a 4 rakat fard by myself. Two mistakes might happen. I can forget to pray a surah in the first 2 rakat, and I can add a surah in the next 2 rakat, third and fourth. What's the masala on that?
Which salah? Are you praying a fard or?
Yeah, fard, 4
Fard.
rakat fard.
Okay. Yes.
So I forgot to pray a surah after Surah Fatiha in the first 2.
7 10 students, what's the answer?
If you focus Fatiha,
It's a wajib to recite the
your
surah.
salah is not
So you have to do sujood as-sahwi.
Okay. So here the madhahib will differ. So the Hanafi fiqh is very different here. So what did he forget? Fatiha or another surah?
No, Fatiha is must. So surah, forgot the surah.
Forgot a surah. In the first rakat of fard. What's the answer? Okay. Yeah. So it's better to, let's say, if you missed out a surah, you can read it in the 3rd or 4th rakat, but because the place has changed, you do sajda sahwa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happened in the 3rd and 4th rakat? If I prayed if I done my 2 surahs in the first and second, and then I additionally, instead of just praying Fatiha in the 3rd, done another surah after Fatiha.
Okay, good question. So in your fard salah, if you accidentally read another surah after Fatiha, it's not too much of an issue basically. It's just you've gone against the sunnah. That's all it is. Yeah. So you don't have to do sajda sahwa or anything like that. Any other questions?
Is this available on the video?
Yes, we'll post it straight away. So, inshallah. Any other questions?
Can I ask another question?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Let's say we are in a congregation, so we are praying behind the imam. Second rakat, at-tahiyatu. Sometimes the imam finishes at-tahiyatu before I finish, and he gets up. So I am supposed to follow the imam. I haven't finished my at-tahiyatu. So I'm guessing because in the second rakat it's wajib, it's no issues for me. I just follow the imam, and even though my at-tahiyatu is not finished, I just stand up.
Okay, good question. Okay, now in terms of following the imam, I'm going to mention a few things about this. When it comes to following the imam, rule number 1, for me, it's my responsibility to follow the imam as soon as the imam does it. It's not piety to now delay. Let's say, for example, the imam has gone up from sajda, and I want to, because I feel like doing a very long sajda. So I'm going to I'm going to stay in sajda for at least for a bit longer. That's not piety at all. Piety, to demonstrate piety in a salah behind the imam, is to be a good follower. So generally the normal rule, as soon as the imam does something, we do it straight away. That's the normal rule. Yeah, and that is what piety is. Even let's say the imam's already getting up from sajda, and you've only said Subhan Rabbil A'la just once. That's it. You sit up with the imam. Yeah? So that's what piety is, number 1. Number 2, now when it comes to, now there's a bit of an exception for this rule over here. So now reading at-tahiyatu in the second rakat, or even in the third rakat, to recite at-tahiyatu till the end is a wajib on the imam, and it's a wajib on the followers as well. Yeah? So that's the first thing. Now to follow the imam immediately, that's a sunnah. The two obligations. Yeah, to recite at-tahiyatu is a wajib on the imam and it's a wajib on the follower. Number one. Number two, to follow the imam straight away is a sunnah of salah. So now there's a clash here. The sunnah requires me to stand up and join the imam in his third rakat, but the wajib tells me to sit down and read at-tahiyatu. So here you actually sit down, stay seated and finish your at-tahiyatu because that's a wajib. And then you fulfill the sunnah later. Does that make sense? Or let's say in the last scenario, in the last sitting, to read at-tahiyatu is a wajib, number one. To read Allahumma salli ala is a sunnah, Allahumma inni dhalamtu is a sunnah. Imam has done Assalamu alaikum wa Assalamu alaikum wa I just started my Allahumma inni dhalamtu. What do? Do I finish it or do I do salam straight away? Yes, I do salam straight away. Because now it's a clash of sunnah and sunnah. And the following the sunnah, imam is a greater sunnah. But let's say if I was only halfway through at-tahiyatu and the imam's already done salam, what do I do? Finish at-tahiyatu first, because now there's a wajib and there's a sunnah. Does that make sense, everyone?
Just one thing, for witr, if in third rakat, when we do the takbir, if somebody forgets the takbir and don't do the dua, go straight to the ruku and sajda. Is that right? Or
Okay, yes. So that would be sajda sahwa. So for Hanafis, especially this is specific for Hanafis, in the witr in the third rakat, it is wajib to say Allahu Akbar and then to recite another dua. For example, dua kunut. Allahumma inna nasta'inuka wa nastaghfiruka. So this is a wajib for the Hanafis. So if you miss either Allahu Akbar or you miss both and the dua kunut, then you have to do sajda sahwa. Yeah.
I know during Ramadan some people forget and they go to ruku and then they get back up and they do the dua kunut.
You say behind the imam?
Behind it.
Okay, if you make a mistake behind the imam, that's not too much of an issue. Just continue to follow the imam. So any mistakes that you make pertaining to a wajib, accidentally behind the imam, they're all forgiven.
On the last salam after, say, Zuhr, 4 prayers, I observed that when the imam says Assalamu alaikum, some people do their own right after. They first Assalamu alaikum, and then they follow the imam. But in some cases, we follow when the imam completes to the right and to the left.
Here, as far as I'm aware, it's better to follow the imam straight away. As soon as he says Assalamu alaikum to Allah, you do it straight away. Okay, anything else? Okay, what we'll do next session, we'll do more practical. So I'll make this video available if anyone is to watch anything, was explanation of the ruku, etc. to make sure. Next session we'll come in straight away and we'll do a practical. So brothers will line up, you'll go into ruku and I'll help you. Because even after this session, you'll be making millions of mistakes. Yeah, theory does not correct anyone. So at least now, because the time is up, so the theory is there, rewatch anything, and then next session we'll help each other practically correct our positions, and we'll go through practically in terms of some pronunciation as well. In terms of, let's say, Subhanakallahumma, our adhkar of Salah, at-tahiyatu, these things, because I'm sure there'll be mistakes here and there. We'll go through that inshallah next session. And we'll go, if we have time, we'll go through a bit more masail of Salah as well, if there's time. But what I'll do is on our WhatsApp group, I'll post the wajibat of Salah. You know, those things that if you make a mistake in, I can do sajda sahwa to rectify it. We need to know what these things are. So at least at the basic level, there's 14 wajibat of Salah. I'll post a picture of it in our WhatsApp group, so everyone just read through that and just prepare yourself. We'll have a greater discussion on the next session, inshallah. Good. Jazakumullah khair.
Same time for next week?
Yeah, same time.